respected members of the panels, managing committee members, fellow members, welcome guests, media, a very good evening to you all. On behalf of India Social and Cultural Center, it is an honor and privilege to welcome you all to the panel discussion on disaster management and risk reduction. We ISC extend our heartfelt condolences to our brothers and sisters who are victims of the floods in Kerala and Karnataka. We thank the great leaders, the government of UAE, citizens and residents of this great nation UAE from the bottom of our hearts for their wholehearted, benevolent support. UAE, Indian Mission and Indian communities are jointly offering and extending their services and support to the maximum extent at this junction. I also thank and welcome the resources persons represented various fields who have come to share their knowledge and experience, and wish to extend my deep appreciation to all the expert panel members. We are privileged to have in again so many distinguished experts and resource persons as well as observers. You are all leaders in these fields, and I am fully confident that your knowledge, experience and expertise will provide important insights. Safeguarding nature is our fundamental rights to all of us, but who cares? All of us are gathered here because we care deeply about the impact of climate change. Natural disasters are increasing worldwide. The most recent affected are Kerala and Coorg in Karnataka. I belong to Karnataka. That is hardly 2 hours journey from my native place to Coorg. Kerala is a disaster, yes, each and every global person that we know, but Coorg was isolated. My relatives, my friends, all are there and now they are doing the service. Some of the villages completely vanished. Even today morning, they found 2-3 bodies. Everywhere the bodies are lying. Complete, so many villages vanished. I appeal to all the expert panels, please extend the support to wherever there is a natural disaster. Even if you are extending the support to the global, it will be highly appreciated. We ISC to exhibit rich socio-cultural of our great nation, and moreover that we always support with selfless service to our people as well as our nation. We have a number of professionals in different groups like IPF, Toastmasters. I'm sure we can all join together and support to our people as well as our nation for any natural calamity or whatever the service our brothers and sisters we need, definitely we can support with all together. I would like to thank you all for the dedicated efforts, selfless service and contribution towards implementing disaster risk reduction and community-based adoption initiatives. I wish all constructive and fruitful decisions a very successful meeting. On behalf of ISC, I assure once again, whatever the support for our noble cause, we are ready to serve day and night with selfless service for our brothers and sisters as well as our nation. Not only, even we don't think when there is a disaster, whether it's a member or non-member or Indian, non-Indian. We are ready to support for whatever the extent at global level. Thank you, one and all. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Mr. Jairam. Friends of Kerala Shastra Sahitya Parishad is purely a science-based volunteer group, and we are lending our scientific and technical expertise on various subjects, and we would definitely support or any flood relief. After this session, there will be an outcome of it, which will be a global updated checklist or a sort of instructions which will be useful for a lot of communities around the world. So now, before getting on to this session now, I would like to introduce you the coordinator of this session, Mr. Nishad Kaipulli. Mr. Nishad Kaipulli is a GIS and GPS navigation specialist for governments in GCC countries. He is a consultant for Dubai Police, Abu Dhabi Police, Saudi government and other regional government bodies. He is the pioneer of the development of Malayalam Unicode, which is the Malayalam language computing. And by passion, he is an environmentalist. And he says that he is one of the most recognized and most respected individual as an environmentalist in UAE. So let's give a big hand to Mr. Nishad Kaipulli. I invite him and I give him this session to take over this workshop and instruct. And finally, as a matter of request, I request all of you are present to give your valuable opinions. Let us set forth some good instructions and checklists for which would be useful for our next generations to come. Thank you very much, and I invite Mr. Nishad Kaipulli.
Thank you. Let me just get my laptop. Good afternoon, guys and girls. I'm not a very formal speaker, so and I'm not used to a lot of formal gatherings, so we need to relax and chill. Everybody's very serious. This is not going to be a serious, a debate or a discussion. It's just going to be us sitting together and finding simple solutions for very, very complex problems, which is not that easy, by the way. Thank you for the opportunity and the wonderful introduction. To introduce the functions, thank you for the opportunity for allowing me to give you the functional scope and the direction of this gathering that we are trying to get some form into. On the evening of August 8th, the state of Kerala received 310 millimeters of rain, resulting in all dams filling to capacity. 35 out of the 42 dams were opened for the first time in history. This led to the tragic deaths of 380 people, or probably more, and consequential displacement of more than 280,000 people. Most of the regions affected by the rain were classified as ecologically sensitive zones by the Western Ghats Ecological Experts Panel, which we lovingly call the Gadgil Committee Report. As we know, and those 250,000 people who already died, who are displaced or dead, as we all know, most of these recommendations were disregarded or completely rejected. Over the past 2 weeks, the Malayali community and general Indian community came together to offer financial and material support to the victims of this unprecedented disaster. Although the dam's shutters were released with prior warnings, the scale and range of the flooding was not anticipated by any experts or think tanks. The relief and rescue operations seem to be mostly reactive. These words are very important. You need to understand. Reactive. It is not with any sort of forethought or following any sort of protocol. During the course of your panel discussions, you will attempt to examine the sequences of these events, propose possible constructive solutions, and draw objective conclusions. Ladies and gentlemen, disasters do not follow standard operating procedures or timetables, but we as qualified professionals can plan for them. We can build a repository of information on how to react effectively and build documents and instruction booklets to follow during such disasters. This can be done for each field of activity. Now a brief look on how remote locations all over the world help during the relief efforts. to highlight a case in point on how we can contribute remotely. Contributing remotely does not mean sending money and materials, contrary to popular beliefs. If we are experts in a certain field, we need to be confident enough to lead others to follow in your path, so that they can take up those ideas and run with it and make decisions and bring about change on the field. Besides the financial support pouring from all over the world, including the gracious contribution by the government of UAE, there was also relentless support from the community over the internet, social network channels to collect and process the huge volumes of data. You already heard my previous speaker telling you about how they set up the relief operation centers all over UAE. I mean, actually mostly in Abu Dhabi. And they were coordinating and the information was coming in. Mind you, we already have a website which was set up by the government. And that information was not properly utilized. We were not able to process that information. And there are reasons for that. We need to analyze those reasons, only analyzing the reasons, not looking at at somebody to blame. So information coming from these sources were collected, verified, and forwarded to the rescue teams on the ground. The results of the rescue operation was also followed up to ensure that the evacuees were safely transported to the nearest relief camps. And this was all happening without any kind of formal protocol document. This was done organically. It did happen, okay? So we know that these things have happened, and now we need to understand how it happened. The nuances of those events. So the support and assistance offered by the Malayalam radio stations, the media, as well as TV channels, they all pitched in. They all came together and worked together. Some of the television channels stopped commercials completely, during this entire deluge, and as well as the relief operations, which speaks volumes about the commitment of some people within the community, within the media. We always blame the media has no ethics, but they actually turned around. They did the right thing. One of these relief operations, remote relief operation centers, which coordinated was the Shastra Sahitya Parishad, which actually very few people know what it actually means. The Shastra Sahitya Parishad, is it like science and literature? No, it is not. It is scientific literature. It's an assemblage of experts of preparing scientific literature. I guess we are also going to do that, right? We are also going to sit down and prepare a scientific document that's going to be used like a workbook. So that is what the Shastra Sahitya Parishad was doing. Furthermore, back home in Kerala, we observe something spectacularly unique that makes who we are, that completely identifies who a Malayali is. Policemen, fire force, forest departments, coast guards, doctors, shopkeepers, migrant workers, engineers, college students, and last but not least, the people we always say are completely unmanageable, our fisher folk. They came together and they rescued thousands of people without any sort of formal organizing skills. They were not MBA graduates. They did not go through any of these leadership speeches that you guys spend thousands of dollars attending. But they did that successfully, effectively. We need to know how they did that. We need to understand the nuances of that, the details. What is it that they did that our government was incapable of doing? Navies and armies and coast guards. They were all doing things, but they were not doing it effectively. Kerala suddenly forgot party politics and caste and religious lines and became one people. With this gathering, we aim to understand and improve that oneness and be more effective with clearly structured, concise, open source disaster management information, which is openly accessible to the public. We as a nation cannot be defeated by any force, be it natural or otherwise. What we aim to do here will be described with a few points. We basically aim to do two things from this gathering. Assess the actions, that's the first point. Assess the actions and results of the disaster in the following areas. These following areas are already, gathered in these groups. Rescue operation and evacuation mobilization. How do we do it? Camp management. Supply chain management of relief aid to camps. Information management systems. Impact on environment and wildlife. Disease control and mental health management. Child welfare. Child trafficking is also included in child welfare. Animal welfare. So these are the things we are trying to study and understand during this crisis. And point number 2, that was point number 1. Now point number 2, what are we going to do with that information? We will evaluate their effectiveness and offer objective recommendations, not opinions, mind you. We don't want opinions. We want objective recommendations, quantifiable, measurable recommendations that are going to be based on our understanding, based on history, based on our present scenarios, with data to back it up. And that's what we're going to do. The results of our findings will be documented to form the Disaster Management Protocol Document, DMPD. That's what we're going to call it, yeah. If our team can come up with some wonderful name, we need to come up with a nice, interesting name for that. And why are we doing this? Why are non-affiliated, non-governmental, random people doing this? When we have an army, navy, plenty of money pouring in from all directions, state machinery, collectorates, administrative officers, and space agencies that has sent 9 geostationary weather satellites, which we, meaning you and me, paid for in the last 30 years. I will repeat that if nobody got that. We have the only country which has got the most number of geostationary satellites. The United States don't have weather monitoring satellites as much as we have. We have spent, you and me have spent a shitload of money to send those satellites up. But do you have access to their data? Does any of our governments have access to that data? We need to answer that. Well, apparently donations of money and materials does not cover leadership and management skills during such disasters. You can't. That was the only thing that was missing. Leadership and management skills. So we need to nurture that. You can train that. Leadership and management skills. There are no perfect systems. There is only a path towards it. So let's get on that path and get on with it. Thank you. Before we started, that among you will find one team leader that I will need to advise. I will need to give them some guidance. I've already guided our medical team, and basically it is this. I will explain what we're trying to do. We need one person who would be a team leader from that group. You yourself can nominate somebody. And I will explain to that person how it has to be done, what we are aiming to do, and certain guidelines, certain do's and don'ts. Because it is very clear that this is a very emotional situation. There's a lot of emotions in there. A lot of people have died, a lot of people have got their homes destroyed. So our mind will constantly be thinking about how do we solve that, how do we solve that. Those are big problems. And those big problems cannot be addressed by addressing it directly. It has to follow a protocol. And that is the protocol that we are going to build. And please remember, this is not about, it will be strange that I'm saying this, it is not about this disaster. It has nothing to, this gathering has got nothing to do with this disaster. It's about the next disaster. Not just in Kerala, it could be anywhere. It could be in Uttaranchal, it could be in Karnataka, it could be Bihar, Orissa, where these disasters are commonplace. When we come up with something like this, with a document, those disasters will be manageable, more effectively manageable, not just from the government side, but also from NGO side. And
one of the biggest strengths that we have, the government has no documents for it, which is the social media. Us. There is no document for us. How are we going to contribute? Not by just sending money, but let us contribute effectively. That effectiveness is what we're going to draw certain pointers on. We're going to bullet point them, and we're going to hit at it, look at it, and come out with solutions that we can work with. All right, is that clear? So let us find out who among you is the leader of your group, so I can bring them on board. All right, go ahead, guys.
Main areas which we have to talk to the public, educate them how to deal with this. This is, we have to make certain guidelines on that. Waste management of the medical waste and disposal of dead bodies. Safe and proper guidelines should be provided. Pure drinking water, personal hygiene, environmental care. Personal hygiene and pure drinking water already the government and the health department has started working on it, and we have seen the Malappuram collector giving a very good video, giving the training about how to purify the drinking water. And environmental care. This is something I think not only us, the whole Kerala and whole Indians should be taking care of now. We have already suffered, whatever we have suffered is because of our lack of environmental care. I think some other group is already dealing with that, so we will not go into that. But one suggestion that came was there are many ways to deal with, to change the mental makeup of the of our people. Yeah, I'll finish.
You have 1 minute.
That is the start from the home. Train the children in the schools, right from small classes, and be a role model to the children as well as the society. We as parents should start. IMA and Health Department, already we have told about the toll-free numbers for the mental problems. Another important point that was suggested was ask the government and medical health department, if they are not done so, have statistical data and documentation of health problems that have already occurred, so that in the next coming disasters we will be ready with that. Include disaster management in the medical curriculum, and in the poisoning. This is one thing that has not been covered. Poisoning from electronic disintegration like lead poisoning and mercury poisoning, etc. These guidelines should also be given. Thank you for the time, and we thank you for giving this opportunity. We will be coming back with detailed report.
Thank you so much. Now we invite the next table, the most illustrious of tables, media. Are you pretending to write, or have you already? This is usually before the exam. Please.
They really want me to. Well, as you know, people know that media is always a chaos. My diary is full of information which even I cannot read properly, so I'm trying to make it short. From various fields, so it's been quite difficult to note down all the points and come to a consensus and make a synopsis out of it. But here I would like to say that concerning the media or the IT department or the social media or the TV or the radio department, everybody would like to convey a message. That's the baseline of any communication medium. So predominantly, we are not speaking about the floods which just now occurred in Kerala, but in future, when is the next flood, when is the next natural disaster? It should not happen, but still, when would the next natural disaster? And the predictability or the media plays a very important role to predict or to analyze or to assess
and convey the message to the public or to the government or to the sources, saying that a danger, a mishap is waiting to happen, to occur. And that's where the media has a very important role to play. It starts from there. It could be a natural disaster, it could be a man-made disaster, it could be any kind of disaster. Media should start or should actually behave as the stopping force of that disaster well before the disaster occurs. Then comes the preparation. And preparation, for every disaster there are 3 R's. As you all know, it's relief, rescue and rehabilitation. Or probably rescue, relief and rehabilitation. In Kerala this time the rescue was done commendably well, and relief is actually done gracefully, and we are adoring the fact that, admitting the fact that the relief is done well, and the rescue, the rehabilitation is also being done possibly in a very nice manner. But before the next disaster happens, there should be a preparation team. It's not just the media, it's a government council where we need to have an expert panel who can advise media. This time we have seen a lot of fake communication or wrong communications happening. So do we have a health professional or a safety professional or any kind of expert who actually has a commandable voice to shout it out through media? We have seen the minister saying the wrong communication, we have seen the experts saying the wrong communication. So we need to control the communication. For that we need to have an expert panel for every media. And before that, we need to have a code of conduct for all the media presenters out there. It could be in terms of writing, it could be in terms of speaking, or in terms of radio or video. The first thumb rule of any medium should be give the exact information. Are you giving the exact information? That's the basis of journalism anywhere, but still, while disaster comes to hit a city or state, give the exact information, keep your emotions under control, every presenter. No analysis, no editorial conflicts, no discussions, no debates, and no two media should give two different information. For that, the government should act. There should be a legal policy which is being advised by the government, where one single source should give out the communication. It could be the government source like WAM. We have a WAM here in UAE. Why not we have a WAM in Kerala or India? We should have a single source of information where the media can actually grab information from the government and say the exact information. Asianet says the same thing, Kairi says the same thing, Mathrumi says the same thing, and Manorama says the same. And likewise the radio can also have an exact information provider, and that provider is very important. And that's where content resource is very important for us. Where do you take the content from? That's a very important point. For example, I'm a radio professional, I have Anup with me, he's also a radio professional. Where do we get the content from? We go for Wikipedia, or we go for Google, or we go for YouTube, or we browse our TV channels. But where do the TV channels get the information from? There lies the exact pathway for a brand new a platform where you can put in all your information. For that, we need a disaster management platform which has all the information, where any media professional can go in like an encyclopedia. You have a dictionary with the meanings of all the words, but do you have a disaster management dictionary where you can go and source and say, okay, something is going to happen, what should I do? What all information can I grab from the next disaster, or from the next possible chaos which is waiting to happen. So we need a content resource which is like Wikipedia for every media professional to go and grab the information, which helps every citizen to possibly stop sharing the wrong information, which might lead. And next thing is the reputation of any management or any media house. So how do you uphold the reputation of any media house? For that, there should be a media policy which should be adopted in every media in terms of management or in terms of their governing discrete, where the media house will have a disaster plan on their cards.
what we learned from Murli Tumarapudi, who is the chief of UN Disaster Risk Reduction Management. He said that what we say, or 1924's flood. Since then, after 70 or 80 years, we are witnessing another flood. So, after 20 or 22 years, we might or might not witness another flood or any other disaster in Kerala. But now, we can have Gujarat and Bhugamam, it can happen. Or any other disaster can happen in many parts of India. So, for that, any media channel should have a proper editorial policy where how do I run my shows when a disaster hits my nation. So they should have a proper editorial policy. And that editorial policy, this is where the government has a huge role to play. We were speaking about, the entire panel of people were speaking about a universal editorial policy for people who are not from the medium or media. They might not be so much aware of the factor or the terminology called editorial policy. Every station has an editorial policy. Say what and say no to what and what not to say. This is very important. And while a disaster hits a nation, you should have that fact or factors or that listing in terms of what to be said and what not to be said in front of your table, and that should be followed. And that should be a photocopy for Manorama, Mathrubhumi or any other media house, be it NDTV or be it Flowers TV. Everybody should have that editorial policy on chart, which is being approved by the government or the Central Media Council. We should have a Central Media Council just like how UAE has. We have it, but we are not very strong in terms of disaster management. And for that, few of the things which IT professionals are in our panel, they suggest a very valid point. That's something which we have never thought of. A lot of information being shared is wrong information, we all know that. But which information caused the damage was caused by some of the information caused the biggest damage, which was taking this flood into conservation of the example of the flood. We would state the example of CM's Relief Fund's account number. You might have seen different account numbers in different Facebook status or WhatsApp status, and you might have got confused on what exactly the account information, what is the real account information. So for that, one of our panelists said, we need to have a resource where we need not explain or expose our account number. You just go to the bank, pay the amount and come back. You just go to UAE exchange, any exchange center. You don't know what the account number is. You don't need to pay. Or else, like how government of UAE took a brilliant initiative by you just send an SMS. Your money is done. So that's how you should have the Chief Minister's Relief Fund is very authentic, but the account number should also be equally as authentic as the Relief Fund. For that, you need to stop duplicating the real account number. And I have a few points which I have missed out, I'm sorry, because I'm in a hurry to close this. And finally, I would like to say something. One of our panelists, Anup, said, media is a house where we need to build trust among the people. How do you build trust while the disaster is on? There are two reasons. We have seen people like Rajamanikam or Prashant Bro who is into the field and they are working towards the mission and they finally own the trust. Here, media should give the right information and they should stop the breaking news habit. They should not break news during a disaster. They should say, there is a news coming up, this is the important or the latest update. Once you stop the breaking news habit, then most of the disasters inside the country which is led just cause of the news channels might reduce. And finally, there is a huge role play for the media houses. As like Murli Tumarapudi said, the next disaster may be on the cards after 20 to 50 years or 30 years. So, our next generation might not be there, or the next generation might be conducting similar sessions after the disaster, saying how to control a disaster. For that, we need to start education from the school level. So how do you educate, how does media play an important role to educate them from school level? For that, you need to have a media disaster management booklet or syllabus. It should be an educational subject. Environment should become an educational subject. Media, newspapers, right now, they have disregarded the environment articles. They don't have an environment editor. Newspapers or any channels should have an environment editor. Media houses, schools should have it. And finally, this is corporate responsibility. So I would like to close the entire conversation or my presentation with this statement. It's as simple as this. This is my real life experience. While I was working in Kochi, once, I'm saying about the commercial purpose, okay? Tata Docomo was getting launched. You might be knowing it was in 2007 or 2008. So Tata Docomo was getting launched and they used a structure or a scenario called roadblock. And roadblock is something that whenever you change the channel, you listen to the same show, whichever channel it is. For example, you switch to Hit FM, you switch to Club FM, you switch to Flowers FM, or you switch to Gold FM or Radio Mango. You listen to the same show. It's called a roadblock. Tata Docomo bought all the three major players in Kerala, Club FM, Radio Mango and Red FM, and they played the same show on the same time band with the same presenters. And the presenters were like, I do a show with Anu. Now we are competitors. But on that particular show, we all join together and do a show. And imagine a scenario where a disaster is being hit. And this is the case, a disaster is being hit. All TV channels air the same news bulletin. All media houses air the same information. All news presenters join together and sit on a panel. And they analyze the same information. And they say this is right and this is wrong. So the credibility, that's why we are coming, media should build trust. For that, no two TV channels, no two social networks, no two radio networks should give two information. Instead of that, they should give one information. For that, the biggest possibility, it might be an utopian theory, but I would say if government of India decides to say that this is the rule of the country while the disaster is being hit, in the nation or a city or a state, let's form together, let's become one single channel. Let's all become Doordarshan. Let's all become, every channel will say the same news bulletin. The major highlight of this is that you will have an Arnab Goswami, you will have a Rajiv Sadesai sitting together, and you will have a Vedu on the panel, you will have a Shani on the panel sitting together and speaking for the country. And that's where media can play or actually convince or actually act on such huge disasters. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now we move on to HSE, Health, Safety and Environment. And I invite David. Hope it will remain without breaking our time barrier of 8 minutes.
I'll try to be very quick on this. Since we already passed the time to conclude this and the very points, one of the major issues which was discussed by our team was lack of access to drinking water on disaster hit areas. And we have come up with a suggestion to have an equipment which can convert flood water or even sewage water to drinking water on a mass level. Second one is emergency protocols are not taught, or there are not even fire drills in schools. So from school onwards, we should have the emergency protocols repeated regularly. Like even the same person, they will have to repeat the emergency protocols or drills once every 3 years or 5 years, because it has to be kept in mind. Another one was geomapping of rivers and its banks. It's not available. Like when instructions were given, like people should move 2 kilometers away from the river. The question was, it's already flooded, so where does the river start and what is the point where we are 2 kilometers away? So the topography mapping, along with another one, which once we have the data, we can have QR codes for the house, which will say from how many kilometers from the river bank is this house or this residential unit stayed, so that you can use an app to find out how far are you from, how far is your home or how far the place you are right now is from the river, so that if an alert comes, you will know whether to move and to move to which place. There is a big confusion on this in many areas, so we had the experience as examples. And you don't have a documented risk assessment of flooding or any natural calamity, by the way. So this has to be done in the way the ISO standards now assess 18,000 risk types. What is the impact and what is the risk involved and how do we mitigate it? It has to be documented and kept by the government, publicly accessible. Another thing is that, I guess Nishad has already mentioned, we have got a lot of weather data from the weather radars, from the satellite systems. None of this is publicly accessible. Another thing, even if you get the weather data, you need an expert to interpret it. So it should be available in a website which is interpreted to a common man's language. If I read it, instead of me getting trained how to read the radar data, it should tell me common man's terms. What is the weather like and what's the impact in this area? Another thing which was discussed is that we don't have a proper system which will say the building is fireproof or flood-proof when we give the permit. So instead of adding several layers of bureaucracy, we were planning to have it certified, the construction certified by a new department. By the way, we don't have a health and safety department. We have got the electricity board, the revenue board, disaster recovery team. We don't have an HSC team as part of Kerala government. So this has to be set up first, and they need to clear the new constructions and assess the risk of the existing ones. Not only the flood risk and fire risk, even the gas circulation, for example. And all these certifications, since it's already too cumbersome, the team has proposed there should be a single window where you can have all the permits and approvals and the certifications done. And another environmental hazard which we have identified is during the evacuation or even at a relief camp, we don't have a proper system to eliminate septic tanks and the sewerages. So there are equipments or STPs available which can be held at least at the relief camps or at the collectorate level, which can destroy human waste at a mass level, which is not a very expensive thing. We have got residents associations in most of the community areas. So these associations can be given with guidelines on what to do, what not to do, which they can discuss even before start of a disaster. It can be small things like a booklet which will say what to do when you return to a flooded house. Another thing which was suggested by the team is we don't have the habit of having a proper evacuation kit. We never expect emergencies to happen. So every house should have an evacuation kit which can basically consist of one flashlight, your important documents like your passport or your certificates, the medicines your family regularly take, and some durable food which has to be disposed when its expiry shelf time is over, like some biscuits, so that you will not have to think what to pack, what not to pack when an evacuation call comes. We had also been discussing about new technology. We have got most of the street lights damaged by the flood and the winds. Since we'll have to move to LED lighting anyway in the future to save energy, some of the technical experts, one of the technical experts in the team suggested that it can have a communication network at the cost of just adding 1% to the cost of the light itself, which will act as a mesh, a communication mesh, which can do several things. Like first, it can track where are your equipments. Like your mobile phone is still in a flood hit house, that means probably you are there. Another one is about your cattle or your vehicles. Also, it can help in waste management by sensing the waste bins when they are full. Like some of the areas may get full soon, so that the waste will be littered on the floor. These kind of management issues can be avoided. Regarding the environmental issues, some of the issues were discussed, but we would be needing more time to do some more research and come back with the solutions which will be passed on offline by us. And that's from our team. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Devan. Now we invite our scientific temper and society to deliver their summary.
Good evening all. Due to the time limit, I'm not going to explain all the points. Only what I feel, we written, and I just want to explain that only the bullet points. As you all aware, we just conducted rescue operations here in Abu Dhabi to support Kerala food. In that situation, we have faced so many challenges. And our team said, if this kind of the system in Kerala, we should not face any kind of difficulties to support our flood rescue operation. So there is a two-part. One is government authorities should take actions, and as well as people also should take actions. I will go through the points. Government authorities should forecast weather changes, and they should properly collect the data and should be analyzed by government people, and whatever the outcome, it should be revealed to the people and to be followed. And sometimes we are supposed to get a ADS data, old data of our weather forecast. So find expertise for the data collection assessment and plan to make a scientific theory or scientific explanation for calamities and the future plan. And rescue operations should be added to our school system syllabus and to be part of our physical training since from standard 5. And each people should have a team to lead this kind of physical training through the year. And we are aware about blue, orange, red alert. I'm sure about people don't know the alert which is indicated. So government should train the people what kind of the actions to be taken when they see blue, orange alerts. For that, government should take a initiative to take training for the people in each year, and it should be continued. Even we didn't expect any kind of calamities in coming years. What happened last few years, once the floods come, we will take actions, we will aware the people, and it will stop. It should not be, it should complete. If it could have complete, then our people should aware about what kind of the actions they should have taken once the alarms blue, orange, red comes. And government should take an initiative to fix a switch in each home offices. It's like an alarm switch to alert government authorities, like a fire switch to alert government authorities as they are in danger. Then government authorities can reach in each home or office for the rescue operations easily. And the other point, should government take, necessarily government should be find a place for assembly point in each ward or panchayat in Kerala. Once any kind of alert, orange or red, government authorities given, people should leave their offices and home quickly and travel to the assembly point. And panchayat president or any higher level officers should be take attendances for the people and make sure all the people are safe. If something they or and down there, they should take the necessary action to rescue operations. And our team request August 16 should be declared as a Flood Awareness Day. And during that day should be conduct so many camps and science theory classes and physical training classes for the people, for the kids, for the schools, and etc. And again, one more request: we don't have a 24/7 weather forecasting channels. Maybe it's not a commercial purpose. It's for the people. We should have a government 24/7 forecasting channel. And any kind of climate changes should be passed to people immediately through the internet and social medias like Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp, what we used to do for rescue operation, and by messages through mobile phones. Then people should be aware about the climate changes easily. And last but not least, government has more websites like keralarescue.in and so many websites. We should request one point of contact for all the calamities operations like rescue operation and for the rescue operations, for back to home operations, any kind of diseases awareness. For such any kind of calamities operations, we need one point of contact, like one website. And each and every people can access the website and get the information and feed the information to government. Government should be taken action on the request, and government should be informed to the people who requested. That's the final request. Thank you all for the time.
Thank you. Now we go to the telecommunications and information management systems. Since this is the information management IT, they've got a laptop. It's going to be very clear, and concise, and quick. 8 minutes.
Seems like many points are already discussed. Even the IT points were discussed by the science guys. But still I'll walk through. We have very few points. More based on IT, another one as a common, I'll generate one as well. So first one on the communications. When we touch base on Kerala, we don't have a common number as such. A call center number is not available, or a common central point or SOS emergency number is not available in Kerala. Like UAE has 999, Kerala don't have any common number. There are 150 numbers where a guy who is in an emergency situation has to call to reach for a rescue. So this has to be centralized. This centralized team will be coordinating with multiple teams of like police, hospitals, or even the rescue teams like which we had in Abu Dhabi. We had a remote rescue team in Abu Dhabi who were coordinating with government sector. So this central team has to coordinate with the respective volunteer teams all over the world or wherever it is. Now second is alert management. Basically, a couple of other teams have suggested alert management using social media and other things. But that doesn't work always. Now, we require other than outside that, something on SMS or even the calling functionality. Basically, there should be a central system which should call the user, a dial-up concept, where they should call the system and inform you are in an emergency situation. Please move out from this location to a safe side within this much time. The other one is like ARM radios. I don't think so it's something available currently on India or states like Kerala. So this is another good recommendation from the team. ARM radios can be considered, so which is basically to be push type of communications. Then other important point is like what we faced as a rescue team from remotely. What we faced is many locations due to the flood, the towers was down. So there should be a central or a government should have a procedure where they should ensure the affected area that could be, there are chances to be affected, should have a proper power management. Basically, like the power which is being arranged for the respective tower should be on a different standard where the tower cannot be go down. So that has to be standardized so that it will not affect the rescue process. Now, I'll move to the next point, which is like database or ERP. Now, we had for this Kerala flood issue, we had a ERP system or a central website, which is like keralarescue.in, but it was not that effective. So it should be a central ERP system, which should have both web and app based, wherein even for example, if I'm affected, I should be having a small app where I should be able to just plug in my details within 3 steps, or I should be able to directly call the central SOS emergency number. The moment I call, all my location details, everything should be passed on. So it can be either web or it can be from a mobile. Another thing, the same portal should be accessible by the voluntary team and by the central SOS emergency team, where it should have like who has been affected, who has been rescued. Then again, another one is like it should have an inventory management system, where like what are the camps, what are the medicines required, what are the food supplies required, or it should be a central system which can be managed by multiple things. Now, another request from our team was like, this database should be open to authorized NGOs. Basically, it should be only to authorized NGOs to ensure that data is not being mishandled, the privacy is being secured. So it should be given to authorized NGOs like us, fkssp, who is managing remotely. This is basically they will be helping the central SOS team to manage the rescue operations. Just a 1-minute brief about what our team had did last time, or the type of operations what we did last few days was basically, we were gathering the information from the social media like WhatsApp, FB, the calls by the team from multiple locations. We were just gathering the data and then calling the people. It was very time consuming. So all the suggestions what we have done now is basically from the pain what we had from last rescue. This pain should not be there on our next flight or whatever it is, even that whatever it happened, this pain should not be there. So that's why we have given a valuable inputs to the government to take an action. Now, outside IT, I would like to bring some points to notice. One is on the power management. So there should be centralized power management on each location, like under panchayat, municipality, corporate. There should be central decentralized power management concept. So basically using like solar systems or any other solar grids or solar systems, there should be a decentralized common location where the power should be available at whatever the situation it is. Now last one is the panic. Everyone has touch-based this. We would also like to touch-base this. It's an emergency kit which every home should have. Emergency kit means like torch, radio, all set of things, including the medical stuff. Additional to this, one more point which I would like to add is like there should be a protocols like ISMA. ISMA is already available in our country, as per our country, but it should be should be more useful. For example, transportation. I don't think so. Transportation is part of ISMA. Should be added so that government can enforce and get more vehicles for this rescue operations. And then I could see other point was basically training the emergency team under each panchayat, municipality, which was already discussed.
Thank you so much.
Hope it was okay.
It was. I think.
Local organizations.
Sorry?
Local organizations.
Local organizations. Yes, sorry. That's what that table was.
Probably most unwanted.
That was not the intention.
Sorry. That was not my intention also. Another joke is that I got the last chance because I am the eldest among all of you. Probably. Social organizations, you know what the other panelists have discussed. Now, the basic responsibility of the social organization is to, because we are the one supposed to be in interaction with people on day-to-day basis, and we are the one who address the people most regularly. Before we get into my responsibility, I would like to say a few words how about fkssp. The idea triggered them and they pressed into action. I was observing it. Only I was not a integral part of it. It triggered from 2 people, then expanded to 30 the next day, 50, 100 the following day. They were not able to contain themselves within limited areas. So they were searching places, they got accommodated, and now they, after the immediate relief operations. And I think no one has highlighted, all of you, that what results they have achieved from their 4 or 5 days of, means 24-hour operations. It was not highlighted here, I think. Majority of the people who have come from outside of Abu Dhabi, or they are not directly involved with the FKSS, they are not aware of it. That means it was what you have done is a human service. Means it's unbelievable thing that means in about 2,000 kilometers away or 1,500 kilometers away, you are means indulged in a live operation to serve people. There was something that was not amazing. That was what I could not believe. Then organization, what do you expect from organization is that to immediately organize relief operations or relief goods, collect funds, and spread the message that this is the need of the hour. We have to do. We have to help out others suffering with this. Most of the organizations here, they started. They were in action from day 1 onwards. But unfortunately, in Abu Dhabi, this is my experience in Abu Dhabi, we have been asking the embassy officials that we want to collect funds. Either, the local rule restrictions are there. Would you be able to cover an umbrella? Or will you be able to get some kind of a waiver for this particular, this magnitude of this calamity? They kept silent, and on the 7th day, they called a meeting to say that, no, our organizations are not allowed to collect funds. Of course, there was a call from the Chief Minister's office also that relief goods are not our priority right now. We will not be able to focus on that. One thing is that that time, until the day before yesterday, their priority was to save lives. And another issue was that there were technical issues. The central government was not allowing free import of relief goods. It was declared, but I don't know how practical it was. So government would not bear to pay custom duty and release goods for dispatch, and they have logistical problems also. So that way, the support from the mission was not very good. That this is not the way mission embassy or consulate should should help people to press them into action for relief works. This was not the case when it was the case of Latos disaster, not the case when it was the Gujarat's earthquake. The amount of money we have collected, the amount of materials we have collected was, means every center, every sort of organization you go, everybody was in in volunteer service, day and night, sending goods, sending money or collecting money. But immediately after that embassy's meeting on the last Sunday, all organizations are now, there are no activities for them. The collection is forbidden, collection of money is forbidden. Now they themselves have decided that there will be no functions, whether it was Eid celebration, the Onam celebration or Onam feast will not be there. So the organizations, social organizations here, basically in Abu Dhabi, I'm talking about Abu Dhabi, is more or less inactive. I think our panelists have been of opinion that we should not focus on your social commitments. We should also bring out some points. A panelist focused about resource data collections. We should, the organization should be able to do this work, to have a data available, and volunteers should be grouped who will volunteer to go back to the disaster affected areas to do volunteer service. Whether they are unskilled workers or they are highly technical workers. One of our panelists said that he has already triggered an issue. GRACE, called a group of civil engineers. They had started their college alumni members have started visiting the affected houses in Kerala, and it is now spread across the state. They are doing it. That was a very good thing to do, because most of the houses after this kind of calamity, whether it is to be inhabitable, is to be seen, to be checked by the specialists. And again, going back to one of the panelists said that waste management will be the biggest problem the government will be facing after such a calamity, especially the electronic waste. In particular, that Keralites have a habit of gathering all, means in their they have they don't want to dispose of the old. They collect from the old Murphy radio up to the. So now it's all damaged, and it's not an exhibitable piece now. Now disposal of such a huge mountainous amount of electronic waste will be the biggest among the waste management. Waste management we already have. Airlines, we are one of the worst in the waste management. We must agree with that. And then there was a suggestion as a social organization, we should we should no grace for senior citizens. No.
You're not there.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, there was a suggestion that organizations should adopt villages, the mostly affected villages, and should be able to not one means the most affected villages, and should be able to bring the life back doing all what is said in here, implementing all the suggestions came out here. Now, another proposal is that the new construction methodology has to be changed, eco-friendly houses has to be built, and ultimately the social organizations should, when they do the regular programs, they have programs every day or every weekends, three Fridays, Saturday, Sundays, Thursday, Fridays, Saturdays. This kind of awareness program, from what you all have now sending it, as a bit of all this information should be part of, before starting any program, they should go on in either in whatever way, whether it is on a presentation basis. Should be on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So, I just would like to add one more topic which was not actually covered within all this panel discussion, was the animal welfare as well as wildlife rehabilitation. Because a lot of wildlife is coming to our cities and towns, and they are not supposed to be living in the cities. They're supposed to be back in the wild. And the second point is about the diseases that these livestock have now acquired and the precautions that has to be made. So there needs to be a protocol for that as well, on how to handle these animals and whether they are to be culled or whether they can be treated. So there has to be a protocol for all the veterinary divisions and animal livestock management machinery in the state, especially where these animals were tied, they were taken up to high ground during the floods, and when the water receded, these animals were just, they just went back and picked up these animals, but we don't know what kind of diseases they have. So there needs to be a protocol and a system in place to identify those cases. And then there's also, we all touched upon waste management. Along with waste management, there's something that we also should realize, that there is one important component which has been the founding element of all the three major civilizations: the Nile, the Yellow River, the Euphrates, as well as the Indus Valley civilization. I'm talking about soil. So we have come face to face with this element, soil that has come from the mountains down to our cities. So we should not throw them. It's a very valuable asset. It's a very important component. And that has to be used sensibly, put back into fields, and properly managed. It should not be thrown back into the sea or to the rivers, because this is one of the most important elements that gave us farming. And we need to take care of that. We need to handle that. And it's very valuable. It's it's an important resource. Waste management. I had actually made a small clip about waste management. Just briefly talk about that. It's basically a protocol which the previous speaker had spoken about. A protocol of managing certain heavy metals like mercury, arsenic, cadmium, lithium. So these are the chemicals that do not get broken down by enzymes or by digestion or even through soil. It will always remain in the soil. So that's why they call heavy metals. So we need to have a protocol of handling electronic waste, the LCD panels, the LCD TVs, LED TVs, all these equipment have got some kind of electronic waste. So we need a protocol for waste management. So those are the three things that I thought we did not cover in any of our panel discussions. So I would just like to highlight that. And with that, I think we have almost done with the findings and the summaries that we have gathered here. We will be publishing them. I think, Kiran, would you like to speak about that? Or, yeah, we will be publishing this. I don't know exactly how it will be published, but probably the way I think is the best way to do that is some sort of wiki platform, a content management thing, which can be constantly edited and improved upon, rather than, this is not actually a material for Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is an encyclopedia. This is possibly, we can include them in a wiki source. So we will be able to manage that as a community. So when you talk about community management, a whole lot of experts will be invited in, and it would be much more live rather than a private holding. This is what I feel, but you guys can discuss that and come up with anything. And I think we can conclude this. Is there anything that I have missed? Is there anything that I have forgot to mention?
For the dam management, because from the state of Kerala has got more than 40 dams, 44 dams. We have not sent the dam management statistical data and safety data. As a group, and eventually also.
Yes, I agree. There are certain things that have been overlooked and certain things that are not in place. That is the whole idea of this gathering. To come out and identify where we can improve, especially the remote cell towers, mobile cell towers, which are mobile in themselves, not mobile. So the cell tower itself is a mobile unit, and portable powers, the document that requires to be clarified and sent back to the Center about Dam Management, the protocol documents about animal welfare, disease control. So we can see that a lot of these documents are going to be formed, and that's.
My dear friends in the fkssp, Shyam and company, do you know what you are doing? Let me borrow Vasu's words. You will create history.
Thank you. Just one quick question. Just one quick thing. See, you have jotted down the points in some paper and everything. Please don't throw away that paper. Please give it to us. We were able to write down, but we couldn't get the pace as per your discussions. So please don't throw away the paper. Please give it to us. This will be a database for us, and definitely we will try to link this with the authorities back in Kerala for sure. So I think. Shyam, please. He's asking for the final date for the presentation, for this presentation. Will not.
I just want to know that, you are addressing a lot of problems related to households and rehabilitation of households. What about the trader community and small-scale traders, small-scale businessmen who is directly affected by this? Because they are neither addressed through a insurance mechanism or not any rehabilitation mechanism. And small traders, small contractors their entire livelihood is gone. And what is the solution for by this Department of House, like how they feel about it?
This was, thank you for that question. Now, this is an area that I am not qualified to answer. However, while we sympathize with individuals who are affected by this, we should also come up with a list of things that are possible to guide those who are affected in terms of getting insurance, and in terms of assessing the damage. So how do they go about this? There is a clear lack of direction coming from this gentleman who is personally affected by this disaster. So there will be a lot of such people who are not of the eligible category, which means that they have to be extremely poor, or those who are visibly affected, or they have some kind of documents to prove that this is actually an insurance claim. So those who have not insured, we need to come up with some sort of a guideline on how these people who do not have documents to prove that they have these assets or vehicles and belongings destroyed in the flood. And I do not know if there is such a machinery, if there isn't anything like this. Even if there is, we should take that initiative and bring about action approach, like if it's a municipal body, if it's the child member, whichever administrative unit, that sort of a list should be made available, like a call center, or even not just a call center, because call centers are only going to give information. The complete process, like how do I get a driver's license? There is a process to follow. Such and such document, photograph, just like I need to claim for the damages that I've caused. Is the government is willing to compensate 60%, 70%? Is it going to be returned? So those are things that have to be addressed, and that is, although it doesn't come into disaster management, it comes somehow related. It is somehow related to rehabilitation and rehabilitation. It's rehabilitation, bringing these people back into their normal course of life. So that is also something that has to be addressed, and we need to have that list as well. This is the answer that I can provide you. But if you're going to ask me, who do I contact right now? I honestly do not have that information because I don't represent any government agency. So I will not have that information, and I don't think anybody here will be able to offer. If anybody can offer that kind of information, that's more than what we will be able to get in touch with. Is that okay, sir? Is there any feedback you would like to give on this gathering that we have had? If you would like to give some kind of pointers on, especially how we fared. Did we fare good? Is this worth it? And is this gathering productive? Is it going to be productive? Is there something we can do differently? Like a feedback on our performance as this committee of people. Anyone? So that is, we did very good. I don't think there is such a thing.
Coordinated and complexly asked, what were things we have discussed as long as it is documented?
So what were things we have discussed so far? If all these things are documented, then yes, it's a good success. So if you are leaving it as it is, then you can't say. But so far we have done nothing.
As long as I have taken this on my head, I think I will be able to kick people into action and get some things done.
Just a suggestion. There's already a Facebook page, but for just this purpose, if we can create funds where all can follow and all the information is in one place, and we can exchange information, I think that would be good, if that's possible.
I will give you the answer very, very quickly on that. That's a good one. We need to summarize all this information, as I mentioned earlier, that yes, we will do that, but Kannan is not going to speak. He has taken a vow of silence for the next 50 days. 60 days? Is that 60 days? Okay, so he's going to tell me in my ear what he's going to do. Yes. This is something that I had mentioned earlier, which is instead of making dead pages, you know what I mean by dead pages? Pages that do not live. They don't have a life. The moment you create them, they're dead. Wikipedia is a living thing. It keeps growing and it keeps improving. So we're going to make something like Wiki, not something like we will be using the same wiki engine, and we will publish all this, so everyone will be able to edit it. It will be moderated, we will monitor it, and then it will grow. But once you start working with those sort of tools, we are becoming open source. We are becoming democratic. We are actually becoming larger than a small organization. We will have more participants, experts from the course. Yes, sir.
Just a quick note. In 10-15 years ago, back in Kerala, I'm sure all of us have seen, if you live in Kerala, there'll be people who come to our houses with small cards saying that back in Odisha there was a flood and they lost all their houses and property and everything. And we couldn't even imagine what had happened, and we would just show them away. And now we know exactly what happened, and now we know how to handle it as well. And I think the major role, or let's say, I think I know things better right now because of this team, and they deserve a huge amount of applause. And I'm just representing all the media people here, and we'd like to thank you for all the authentic information which were given to us so that we could connect to our listeners, and they started trusting us because we trusted you. So thank you once again.
I don't have any shame in taking credit. Thank you. Anyways, it's a team effort. We have a wonderful team here. The engine behind this talking head is Kannan, and he deserves applause. It is Kannan who has organized. Kiran Kannan. So Kiran is the person who has organized all these people and everyone, including myself.
Not me alone. It's a group of
Yes. Thank you.
And special mention to Shyam also.
Shyam, yes, Shyam, Kannan, as well as Sharon, and then there are lots of other faces that deserves a lot of praise and credit. They put people up in their homes. They spend their time. They fed people, and it's something that has gone completely unsung. And I've seen that myself. I visited these flats where they did these things. So yes, they do deserve applause, and I want you guys to give a proper applause this time. I think we need to get a list of people to thank now. The gentleman who offered us the Shastra Sahitya team to set up the office premises to do the operation work. Before they occupied the office, before they furnished the office and they occupied it, and they led around 50 people to occupy it and run it like an office. So yes, they deserve an applause. Thank you so much for that. So I'm not very good at this sort of formal thank you things, So I was never trained to speak publicly, fortunately. So I need to tell you that this place also requires a lot of thank you, because ISC, I grew up in this town, and not in this ISC. There was another one across the street near the Atnok gas station. So we used to hang out there, we used to play tennis and we used to play badminton. Probably one or two senior citizens that we spotted here may remember me. But yes, so...
Without the hair.
Yes, there was much. Actually, there was more hair, actually. It's all bald. So this is a cradle for a lot of things. These organizations are very important. So when the importance of organizations was mentioned, the KSC, Abu Dhabi Malayali Samajam, and ISC, they deserve a lot of applause. They deserve a lot of credit for putting a lot of effort into working with relief agencies and transporting and collecting those. So they are the real heroes who actually went out into the field and collected it from supermarkets and they shipped out things. So yes, they are also should never go unmentioned. They're very important for this kind of operation. So yes, that's it. Do we round up? Is there anything else? Nothing. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for this wonderful evening. Let's take home something to remember. Good night.